take us to our desired. You see, they must have what they call a blend of the kinetic and not kinetic approaches. And that's what they call in the US government smart power. Now that the military has been able to achieve the very, very outstanding results in this counter-insurgency and counter-terrorism, there must be this element of, the governor. There must be proper governance in all these areas that have been liberated. If you leave them open the way they are, there's a need, for regrouping by the insurgents and the terrorists. Another thing you must also have to look at is, for instance, if people are hungry, if people are disillusioned, they become, easy prey for recruitment. Especially now that you have this electronic recruitment of terrorists and, suicide bombers. So you have to blend the military approach to non-military approach, where it encompasses military, economic, social, and other factors you must consider. Intelligence now must be driven by technology. Any intelligence that you want to gather without appropriate technology will not give you the result you get in modern challenges.
Welcome back. Insecurity or security, whichever you want to look at, is the conversation we're having now. As far as Nigeria is concerned, we're really not out of the woods. We've made some progress, but what happened on Saturday kind of, brought a retrogression. We've not seen, at least in the last few years, the issue of suicide bombing. And that happened in Gwoza, just above or below Bama, which borders Cameroon in Borno State, and that has become a concern. The vice president had to visit, and the death toll, we understand, is about 32 after 4 women detonated those IEDs, and we understand about 30 of them were released into the community. Besides that, there was another incident that has to do with security, the interception of ammunition in River State in Onne. So all of this is part of the conversation. Let's not even talk about the killings of personnel in the southeast across borders. So wherever you turn, there's something to talk about as far as insecurity is concerned. We've been joined in the program by a retired Army officer, former Director, Army Public Relations, and former spokesperson of the Nigerian Army, Brigadier General Sani Usman. General, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Good morning, and thank you.
So my first question, I may not want to start from what's happening in Gwoza. We'll get to that because there are drivers to these things. Maybe your initial comment on the catch of arms that has been seized or intercepted by the Nigerian Customs Service. We understand over 800 of them, as well as in terms of value over 13 billion naira. What's your first impression? What do you see beyond what the layman sees when you see such interceptions?
First and foremost, I think it's a commendable effort on the part of the custom because they have been tracking this cargo for over a month now. And so we need to commend them for such conscientious effort and saving Nigeria, even though we do not know precisely the destination of these illicit drugs, as well as arms and ammunition and second-hand clothing that were intercepted or by the custom in Port Harcourt. Now, it is not also surprising given the security challenges we have in this country and the fact that over time there is proliferations of small and light weapons within the society owing to the security challenges that we've been experiencing. So it is not surprising, but I think the most important thing is that it has been intercepted, and we must give kudos to the Nigerian Customs Service for being so proactive and, of course, being so collaborative. But because beyond the seizure, they have gone further to collaborate with other agencies, both locally and internationally, and that is how it's supposed to be. But what is most important is to make sure that whoever is involved will be made to face the full wrath of the law, because we have had instances of such seizures beyond the media hype. You hardly hear anything of it. So there is need for a follow-through in terms of thorough investigation and prosecution of whoever that is involved. And also to see what can be done about these seized weapons. Either they should be destroyed or they should be taken into the inventory of our security forces.
All right, General, let's now go to the incident that happened in Gwoza. Our hearts and our thoughts are with the families of those that have been affected. When we see things like this, we believe that the terrorists or perpetrators have a message for the Nigerian state. So in decoding the messaging or these messages is important for us so that we can know how to really curb this and stop it as soon as possible. There are fears that this is just the tip of the iceberg. People say, God forbid, but we've seen things like this before. In trying to decode what this means, what messaging do you think they are passing across to the Nigerian state?
Well, if you know the modus operandi of the terrorists, usually they want to send fear to show that they are still in existence, and of course they have the capability to do things. But I think you have to look at the context under which this kind of situations happen. But first and foremost, I would like to, condole the good people of Gwoza, particularly the families that were affected by this dastardly act by the terrorist group. What's happened is that you have to also look at the strategic importance of Gwoza, as it were. You remember in those days, the Boko Haram made it their caliphate headquarters, and of course, you remember they committed so many atrocities, including killing the emir, killing so many Islamic clerics. So they might not necessarily give up. But you have to look at the concerted efforts, especially by the security forces, the multinational joint task force in dealing with Boko Haram terrorists in the Lake Chad region, the Tumbus, and of course the effort by the Air Force and other security forces in clearing the remnants of the Boko Haram terrorists on the Mandara Mountains, which borders Gwoza. In particular, Alengule, who is the factional leader of the Boko Haram terrorists, has lost about 200 fighters, that surrendered. So there is every likelihood it's a kind of reprisal to show that he's still in the game. And you know that for the past few years or thereabout, Gwoza has been relatively peaceful. So unsuspectingly, typical of them, because terrorists, they hardly give up. They are always determined and resilient. So they took undue advantage of so-called kind of relaxed atmosphere among the society, and especially using women and even underage people, that people are less suspicious of them. Take, for instance, one of the suicide bombers was even absent of direction. So automatically she was out of place. People's consciousness should be, pricked to understand that something untoward is happening within the society. But I think by and large, lessons have been learned. People should be more security conscious, more cautious, to understand that we don't relax. The fact that they have been severely degraded and we have come this far does not mean that we should take things for granted. So people should not look at it as a tip of iceberg. It's something that it happened as an isolated incident, and I'm so sure the security forces and the government they are all doing the best they could to ensure that this has not been occurred. In particular, you look at the lockdown, the cordon and search operation within Gwoza town itself and environment, up to Kulka and so many other places. And I know the military are also making effort to make sure that they clear the remnants of the Boko Haram on the Mandara Mountains, particularly, Gudup and so many other places on the mountain. So when you look at all these things, so much as it happened, may their soul rest in peace, but there is no need to panic, so to speak, because it's an isolated incident, and efforts are being made to make sure that all things that need to be done will be fully activated and it won't happen again. Remember, they started with suicide bombing, so now they have been degraded. They lack the capacity to even couple IEDs, because almost 65% of their IED experts have been taken out. So, and it's work in progress. So they will try every means to make sure that they remain relevant. And I think what's behoved on all of us is to ensure that we remain vigilant and security conscious.
Well, speaking of lessons, General, I'd like to quickly, yet again, backpedal a bit to the incident in Rivers where customs intercepted a cache of arms. Let's go a bit down memory lane. In 2017, there was a similar interception of cache of arms. And in fact, in 2017, there were about 4 interceptions by the Customs Service. But beyond, the big display of the interception, investigations never really lead anywhere meaningful such that there will be prosecution of those involved. So why should we be excited about this if in similar fashion it doesn't particularly lead anywhere?
Well, we should be excited because the 2017 and 2024 is not exactly the same thing, in the sense that I know who is in charge of custom. The Controller General is somebody with proven integrity that he would rather, leave the work than allow Nigeria's security to be compromised. So, and they have taken measures to ensure collaborative effort with other, stakeholders, the judiciary and other security agencies, to ensure that the right thing is being done. For the time being, they have taken into custody those involved, and they have seized the weapons and other illicit goods, and they are collaborating with the National Center for the Control of Small and Medium Arms in the country, as well as the judiciary. So they are definitely going to follow through, and we are keenly watching to see that that is done. But beyond that, the government has also put a lot of things into play. It's that there isn't much publicity in terms of what the conjunctions, ease of doing business, single window, and all the rest. And the fact that the custom is well trained and well equipped. Remember, these weapons were not even intercepted at the port. They were intercepted at bonded terminal, and they have the capacity of doing whatever they could do at the ports, as well as the bonded terminals or inland container ports, that, so to speak. So with this kind of things in place, I'm so sure, and the fact that the civil society and, of course, the media are keenly watching, they will not allow things to go the way of 2017. And most importantly, one of the greatest challenges in Nigerian society is the security challenge and the economic challenge. So we cannot, escalate the problems that we're having by allowing things to go the normal way as they used to do before.
Right. So some will say, these issues, they look scattered, but it just speaks to how much the security agencies have to combat in collaboration, with other agencies. Is all hands on deck approach. So we'll just go back to Gwoza, the incident playing out. And, well, the Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, released a statement this morning, giving an account of what exactly played out, how the first bomb went off at 3 p.m., that's 1500 hours. The second one went off at 5 p.m., 1700 hours. There was a curfew imposed, and just while they were trying to enforce the curfew, another bomb exploded, another suicide bomb attacked. And even we understand that this killed a soldier and 2 members of hybrid forces before the 4th one. And in fact, we understand that the soldiers actually thwarted some others. So this is an account given, but the military speaks to the fact that this looks like desperation, and I think you have also reiterated that consistently. But if we go back to when Boko Haram started, it looks like desperation before it became a big thing. So there are 2 sides to this. Some say discountenance it. This is just desperation. Don't let them cause panic, amongst the people. Some others say, well, we've been here before. We discountenanced it in court, and we know what we're dealing with now. So we understand that there are others out there. How do you expect us to carry on now from this point, especially because there's also the propaganda part of it?
Well, just like I earlier said, I know for sure on the part of the security forces, beyond the brigade commander station in Gwoza, even the theater commander operation Hadinkai has moved to Gwoza, and he is personally directing the operations. And having been an experienced senior officer who had been in the theater for long and knows the nook and crannies and everything, there will not be any stone left untouched without dealing with this issue. And so far, I believe some arrests have been made in terms of the collaborators. And when you look at all this suicide bombing issue, you have about 10 people before you couple or you detonate that kind of thing. And those people that either provide information, the guide, and all the rest of them. And remember, even a motorcyclist was used to, I mean, the tricyclist was used to transport one of the suicide bombers. So some people have seen them. And now they are, with benefit of hindsight, cooperating and giving information, and they are putting the pieces together to ensure that this will not be allowed to occur again. And remember, this is a farming season. They took undue advantage of the farming season. People go to farm, and a lot of people, you know, have gone back to their ancestral home. So I know that it is a very difficult thing, but it's doable, and in the sense that they will just get to the bottom of it, because it's something that they are well experienced in dealing with it before. And I can rest assure you it will be done.
So it appears that the issue of terrorism is like maybe malaria and maybe other sicknesses or illnesses that we may have to live with for a while. Given this show up they have done. But do you also think that there is also a political angle to this?
Unless you explain what you mean by political angle,
there are speculations, General, that, you know, there could be political angle to it. It's just a straight question.
Well, if you say political angle, who is behind it? I can understand if you talk about conspiracy theory, for instance, that actually the Western world do not like Nigeria to, you know, live in peace, and some of these security challenges were instigated and fueled by the Western world. So unless you are specific, I may not understand the context of political angles.
All right, I'll let it slide. But let's go to the southeast. We've also seen security agencies being, security officials and personnel being killed in that region, an issue that is beginning to give the Nigerian state a bit of a stronger concern, maybe than before.
Yeah, in fact, I took note of that also, in the sense that, in fact, that was what made me to some time ago pen an article about the role of citizens in uniform, their importance and the role in democratic society, which was widely publicized. It seems we don't understand the importance of those citizens in uniform. Talking about the armed forces and other security forces, including caregivers, you know, the fire service, civil defense, and the rest of them, including the medicals too. So they are special people in the sense that who decide to give their comfort, sometimes even at the expense of their lives, for the well-being of the state. Therefore, they should be treated and respected in a special way. But at the same time, to whom much is given, much is expected. They should be apolitical, professional, disciplined, and conduct themselves with doctrine. So regardless of whatever it is, they should not be denigrated under any circumstances. And quite unfortunately, we have had instances in Okwama, we had it in Barnes Plaza, and just recently a private soldier was killed in Duzama, Katsina State, by vigilantes. So I think this is cause for concern, and I think we need to critically evaluate the reasons why, and to continue to enlighten the society about the roles and importance of citizens in uniform, and most importantly, the citizens in uniform themselves to conduct themselves in a professional manner so that they will be respected by the state. And at the same time, the state should also put in place mechanism for force protection to avoid this kind of instances. Because The armed forces, for instance, they play a very critical role in sustaining of democracy and, in fact, the very existence of the state. God forbid, if with the myriads of security challenges, with this kind of attitude, if any of our neighboring states decide to attack Nigeria, whom do you turn to? It is the armed forces. Therefore, you need to treat them in a special way so that they can perform their duty with due professionalism and what is expected of them. Just like in other climes, I could remember, just as a lieutenant colonel, both in Saudi Arabia and United States of America, when they knew that I was a serving military officer in the Nigerian army, honestly, the kind of respect I was given, I was overwhelmed. It was a different country. I was not a Saudi citizen. I was not an American citizen that time when I was doing my master's program. And that is what we are expected to see in Nigeria. And thank God, some of the multinational or rather corporate organizations, they are going out of their way to have the kind of discount and all the rest, and we expect more of it. But most importantly, the Nigerian society should respect and appreciate the citizens in uniform.
Quite insightful for all of us. At the end of the day, it's about ensuring that our country is safe. It takes a lot to train our military, whether it's the Air Force or the Army or the Navy, or even our police. The Nigerian investment on them is quite high. So losing them to some of these incidents is very unfortunate. And we must thank you so much, General, for coming on the program and providing your insights. Brigadier General Sani Usman is a former Army officer, former Director, Army Public Relations, former spokesperson of the Nigerian Army, and Consultant Director, Corporate Affairs and Information, Nigerian Army Resource Center in Abuja. General, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll switch gears to other things on the program. Join us again.